everyone, this is Hiba from My Little Journal, and today I'm here to share with you a flip through of my traveler's notebook. So I'm not done with this traveler's notebook. I believe I can add more layouts in my 2023 traveler's notebook, but I wanted to do a flip through of the layouts that I've already created and added in my 2023 traveler's notebook. So as you guys know, I switched my traveler's notebooks into Discbound. I trimmed down my TNs and took them apart, and then I was going through the traveler's notebooks and just choosing the paper that I like and want to keep and want to use. I'm going to share with you real quick my pages from recent traveler's notebooks. So I basically trimmed all my traveler's notebooks and I have them all binded together. So when I'm looking for a pattern, I can just kind of look through my papers. I also leave them in the covers as well, so I don't get confused basically. And if I like this pattern, I'll just pull it out and use it for my Discbound traveler's notebook. But as you can see, I have a lot of paper that I want to use. And the good thing is, when I trim them down, I don't know why I don't feel overwhelmed. When they were all in one traveler's notebook, it just felt a little bit overwhelming. And I felt like I had to use every single page. But now that's not the case. I just go through what I have. And if I like a pattern, if it goes well with my photo, I just basically use it for my layout if it matches my photo. Anyways, that is the papers that I want to get through and use. And I have also recently been using it in all kinds of different projects. So I'm not just sticking to traveler's notebooks. I will cover up pages in 6x8 albums, in some of my journals as well. So I've just been having a lot of fun with my traveler's notebook paper and patterns. Anyways, let's get to it. I did also change the size of my discs because this was getting pretty chunky and I needed bigger discs. And I believe they are 1.25 if I'm not mistaken. I did purchase bigger ones as well. So hopefully, once this gets even chunkier, I can switch to the 1.5 or 2 size. So that's pretty exciting. Anyways, let's get to it. I did add a plastic cover just to keep everything intact and safe. I also used one of my traveler's notebook patterns to add a little title page for my traveler's notebook and put 2023. A lot of these pages I've shared in Reels on Instagram, or I've created layouts, process videos here. And some of them I've just created just for the heck of it, all by myself, no recording, no filming. And so some of them might be new to you. And I was just documenting winter here. I love this spread. That pattern from one of my traveler's notebooks from Studio Calico is gorgeous. And I couldn't wait to use it. And I thought it worked really well with my tree photos and just kind of documenting winter. My first few pages were from December and they didn't fit in my 2022 traveler's notebooks, and that's okay. I was fine adding them in my 2023. It was the last few weeks in December, so I didn't mind that. I used this fun stamp set from Studio Calico where you can create a calendar from that stamp set, and added some of the photos in there as well. So basically, when you look at this layout, it would be horizontal, not vertical. And I really like how that looks. Next up is this layout of Leith documenting his birthday. I really like to add in my kids' birthdays throughout the year and document them in my traveler's notebook. I think I've mentioned this before, where my traveler's notebooks are just a creative space for me. It's not, you know, I'm leaving this behind for my kids or for whoever. It's really just a place for me to have fun and be creative. And using these special moments are a great way for me, or start my creative juices basically. So I like to document my kids a lot in my traveler's notebook. But I created a collage and I added only 3 photos in my collage. It's a 4x4 collage. And I left one of those spots empty because I knew I wanted to add embellishing or stamping. And I had these beautiful puffy stickers from one of my Studio Calico kits. and it was perfect to add to celebrate Leith on his birthday. Another fun spread where I did use another collage, this is something I love doing in my traveler's notebooks, is create collages for my spreads. It's also a great way to add multiple photos without taking up a lot of space. So that was fun, and I was just kind of documenting a week in my life and had the photos and the stamping to go with that. Documenting my fun slippers here. This pattern worked really well with my shoes or my slippers, so I had to combine them, and I used my embellishments kind of to create a list, which I also recommend. You don't always have to stamp your 1, 2, 3s to create a list of journaling. You can definitely use your embellishments as well. That's a great way to use up your embellishments. Documenting Happy Mail. I get some really good Happy Mail throughout the weeks, and I tend to forget to document it, but this Happy Mail stamp set from Studio Calico is the perfect addition to my stamps, because now I can document my Happy Mail and the fun things I receive in the mail. So I basically just use the icons from the stamp set to create a fun little pattern for my layout. The great thing about using Discbound that you can use your acrylic pieces. These acrylic pieces are from Colorcast Design, and they're pretty thick and they add a lot of bulk. So if you're using Discbound notebooks, you can definitely use your acrylic pieces. It's a great way to use them, even though they add the bulk, but because they're on discs, you can always go bigger on your discs. And also, you can add vellum and specialty papers throughout your traveler's notebook. And as you can see, I was documenting my coffee. I have all the fun photos, some stamping, added that fun vellum piece with the acrylic piece. I've had that piece for so long, and I'm so happy that I was able to use it in my traveler's notebook. But I just love this spread. It's one of my favorites in this traveler's notebook. I love documenting my parents. They are two of my favorite people on this planet. And this pattern from Studio Calico was the perfect pattern to use for my spread. I just printed 4 photos of my parents and added little puffy stickers in between. Those acetate hearts were perfect to add to my heart hands. And it was just so cute. I love the spread. It's very colorful, even though it's very white, but the hints of color popping through just made it very colorful and fun. Love that. This is something that I love doing also throughout my traveler's notebook, is use the paper in my traveler's notebooks and use it to trim down to add more color to a spread. So basically this was a pattern paper from the same traveler's notebook, and it was just stripes of colors which matched perfectly with the circles from a different page in that same traveler's notebook. So usually your traveler's notebooks, if you're using Studio Calico, they all have the same either elements or colors, and they all match really well together. So it's a fun way to trim down paper and use it on a different spread. It was basically a perfect choice to just trim those down and use them as titles for my journaling. Again, keeping it simple is the way to go. You don't overthink it. You don't have to get all overwhelmed to create a layout. Just use your photos, your pattern, and a few embellishments, and you'll have some really beautiful and fun layouts. This is another fun one where I'm documenting my birthday, and that was another piece from the pieces that I trimmed off for this layout. And that orange fit really well with this pattern, which is, again, is from the same traveler's notebook, and this pattern was from the same traveler's notebook. So you can definitely use the different patterns together because they all match. And again, it's a great way to use those pattern papers from the same traveler's notebook, especially if you trim them down. This fun banana pattern has been in my stash forever. I've been wanting to use it so badly, and it wasn't a fun subject or story, but because we call my daughter Banana, well, that's one of her nicknames, and the whole situation was bananas, so I thought that this pattern worked really well with the story, and I basically used it to tell the story of us spending most of the day in the ER. But she was okay and everything was fine, but I just love this page, and that yellow is so striking. and I love it. Another layout where I kept it pretty simple. I wanted to kind of add what I was listening to in my traveler's notebook at the moment. And by the way, before I forget, I do add the dates somewhere on my spread, so I remember when I documented this or when the story happened. But anyways, I used a Studio Calico stamp set to add all the little covers of the albums I'm listening to. I stamped out Currently with this beautiful alpha from Studio Calico as well, and this 3x4 card, and added a little puffy sticker that said Me Time. So simple. Probably took me like 10 minutes to do this layout, which again, I recommend for everybody out there who's starting out with a traveler's notebook to keep it simple. And believe me, your spreads will come together so quickly. Don't feel like you have to add all the things to create a layout. I am documenting the peaches. I believe this was one of our big craft parties where we crafted all day. So I took snippets of our peaches together because people were coming in and out. And then I just added some journaling, some stamping, used this large title and added stamping to my large title as well. Really fun group of people. And if you are looking for a great crafty community to be a part of, I definitely recommend the Peaches, not because it's my membership, it's because really we have the best group of ladies that craft together, no judgment, so much fun, and we talk about everything. And they have become my crafty friends. I believe I have a process video for this one. This was one of my Rediscover Your Stamps layouts that I get to do with Sarah Scraps, and we try to use our own stash to create some fun layouts using our older stamps and kind of rediscovering our love for our older stamps. And I love that flower stamp. I just created a little cluster, added some words around it, and added like a little photo strip of myself. I believe I was documenting my birthday. Yes, I was. This was a layout that I did kind of using my whole Scrap Your Scraps series. I love to use one pack of embellishments and try to use as many as I can on one spread, or maybe it could be a stamp set or whatever the case is. It's mostly to use up your stash. So I scrapped the scrap out of this kit that I had from Pink Fresh Studios. I think it was designed by In a Creative Bubble. And I had this really fun die cut pack that I wasn't using enough. So I used it on the spread, kind of documenting a week in my life, or not a week, a weekend. And that little title worked perfectly. So I was able to use a lot of those die cuts on the spread. I do have a reel for this one on Instagram, and all I did was this kit came with a little mini stamp set with the tag. So it was a perfect way to stamp the tag, back it up with my photos, and trim out my photos so they would fit in these tags here on this pattern paper. And then filled out some of the tags with some embellishments, with some photos. Used my spring stamp, again from Studio Calico, to add a title and space for journaling. Really love that. Kind of documented my daughter there. Another fun one where I used the same embellishment multiple times. I like to use the same embellishments multiple times on a spread, but I feel like there's a limit to it. So that pack came probably with 10 of them. I'm not even sure. There was a lot in one pack. These little bursts are from Studio Calico, and I could have used all of them and filled out this whole page with every single burst. But I feel like that's overwhelming. It takes away from your photos. It takes away from your journaling. It takes away from all the things on your spread, because I feel like you have to keep it to a limit. So using, what do I have here? 4 is good enough, because I still have space for my photos. I still have space for a title and journaling. If I used all 10, then I'm just using up this beautiful embellishment on one spread, which I don't want to do. I like those bursts, so I want to use them again somewhere else. But also, I don't want to overwhelm my page and just make it a page of photos and the same embellishment. That just doesn't work for me. I'd rather use a few and make them shine. So I get asked a lot, what do I do if I like the pattern behind my layout and what do I do if I don't like the pattern. So this is something I really like and I really want to use. So for that reason, I did not stick these two pages together. If I didn't like the patterns, I would totally stick these together and be done with it, which I do a lot throughout my pages. Oh, I skipped one here. This is something I want to use as well. So I did not stick this together. I will end up using this and I have the perfect photo for this, and I'll just end up adding it to the opposite page, and that way I'm using up my favorite patterns. But if I didn't like a pattern, I would stick it together. And like I said, I've done it before. This is something like right here. I know I stuck these two back to back. But if I do like the pattern, I'm not going to stick them back to back, and at some point I will use that pattern. I might stick a grid on this one just because these don't match, and I'm not a big fan of this pattern, so at some point I'll cover this up with a grid and use that pattern. I love this spread. This was so much fun to do. I believe I used some close to my heart stamp sets and used some of my washi tape to add more circles to the opposite side of my page, use some large stamping and a longer photo to go on both sides of my spread. This was, I believe, at my niece's birthday, and it's so cute. It's so much fun. Love the photo. I also have been asked about doing these types of photos with the black and white background and a pop of color. So as you can see, only our party hats are colored. I use two different ways to do this. I use either Canva or I will use ColourPop. It's an app on my phone. I've had it for a very long time. When I got that app, it was free, but now I believe you have to pay a little fee, which I believe is totally worth it. But if you have Canva Pro, you can do this on Canva Pro as well. So you won't need that ColourPop app. Love the spread of my dad and celebrating him on his 83rd birthday. So fun, keeping it simple. That bold title is enough where I didn't feel like I needed to add anything to that side of my spread. Added his birthday, how old he is right now, and just little elements in between my photos. I love to change it up with my photo sizing. I don't feel like you have to have all 2x2s throughout your spread. Play with the sizing of your photos. It really makes a big difference, and it's a fun way to create a fun collage on one side of your spread because you can add some stamping, some embellishing, and some journaling as well. But if you had just 2x2s, it still works, but I feel like when you change up the sizing of each photo, it makes it even more interesting. Documenting spring. And again, I believe I have a process video for this one. I always recommend to check out my Traveler's Notebook process videos. If you go to my Traveler's Notebook playlist, you'll have all those layouts available for you to watch. And I just used some circle labels and 3 photos of the beautiful flowers in my backyard and my trees, and kept it very airy and beautiful to document spring. This was a hard story to tell, but I had fun with it because I had these really fun stamp sets from the Paper Person shop. And I just used that stamp set to create a column, which is basically my go-to. I love creating columns on my spreads in my Traveler's Notebook. This is a great way to use your stamp, especially if you like all the stamps on one stamp set. And it's a great way to add a title, to add journaling. I just love columns. It is my go-to, and keeping it simple on the opposite side basically is another go-to. So if I'm stamping and it's stamp heavy, I definitely recommend to keep the opposite side simple, but bring in some of those colors using your embellishments. This one's a pretty busy one for me and a darker layout for me. I usually always go with lighter patterns, but I really love this. Just documenting my walks with lathe and stitch is one of my favorite things to do. So using this kit from Close to My Heart was perfect for documenting those moments. Again, changing up the sizing of my photos. As you can see, I didn't stick to the same size, and it gives you space to add stickers and stamping and all that good stuff. Another great way to change up your photo is to cut it down into multiple photos. So it's one photo cut down. Again, I use a lot of different apps when I want to do this. I don't give you one app to use just because I do this in like Canva. Sometimes I'll do it in my PicFrame app. There's so many different ways to play with your photo sizing, but to do this, it's really simple, and it's basically trimming down your photo to 3, and the 3 photos complete your 1 photo, if that makes sense. But I was just documenting Leith being silly, and he was walking around trying to be his father for that day. So he's trying to go around and say, oh, look, I look like my dad. And it was just kind of funny because basically that's how my husband looks like when he's at home. He's like in his PJs, white t-shirt, a book in hand, or his laptop. This layout is another favorite. I love the stamp set from Studio Calico. The buildings are gorgeous and they bring in so much color to any spread. I made sure to use some fun colors for my buildings, and I wanted to document a day out with my sisters, and I had multiple photos, so I just used my circle punch to be able to add all those photos, and I used some of my circle labels as well, which I love using on my spreads. I feel like circle labels are perfect for adding, like, I don't know, a hint of color and to create clusters. So I really like this one. Again, I believe I have a reel using the stamp set and creating this spread. And again, this is a pattern I want to use. I have the perfect photo for this of my dad napping. My dad will nap anywhere. It doesn't matter how many people are around him. He will nap everywhere and anywhere, and I always try to take pictures of him napping. He doesn't mind it, by the way. And so I want to use this pattern to document my dad's naps. And so that's why you can see here I did not stick those together. Last but not least, Mr. Stitch. I love this dog, and I always try to document him throughout my traveler's notebooks. Love using photo strips for him just because I always have multiple photos of the same moment, and he's just so cute and I can't figure out which photo I want to use. So creating photo strips are perfect for that. You can just use all the photos if you want to. And I made sure to like use a pattern on the opposite side that was simple and basic because I didn't want it to take away from my beautiful dog here. And I added some journaling as well and some color in the background. Again, keeping it simple, but documenting those special moments and having fun while doing it. But anyways, that is it for my 2023 Traveler's Notebook. I am working on a Traveler's Notebook class. Hopefully I can release that very soon, but I'm going to be sharing a lot of little tidbits on how to use your Traveler's Notebook, how to create fun spreads and photo taking and photo measuring and all that good stuff. So hopefully that is coming soon to my Etsy shop, so keep an eye out for that. But basically I am done. I'm so happy that I changed to Discbound just because I'm able to use all the things in my Traveler's Notebook now and not feel overwhelmed because my Traveler's Notebook doesn't close. Now, once it gets bulkier, I can just switch out my discs and keep going. And I love it. It's a game changer, and I'm so happy that I did it. Let me know if you changed to Discbound Traveler's Notebook, how it's working for you. I feel like it's the perfect way to use your Traveler's Notebook paper. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed watching my flip through. And if you did, please give me a thumbs up. And if you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing. And I hope to see you guys very soon. Bye.